More on the IndiGo mega deal. We're joined by Jitendra Bhargava, former ED of Air India and an aviation sector veteran. Mr. Bhargava, always a pleasure. A historic deal. How is this going to change the landscape for the Indian aviation market?
Well, one, of course, is that IndiGo, which has been a market leader for quite some time, will maintain its leadership because having ordered so many aircraft and right up to 2035. So they will be having a dominant role and dominate the market in the Indian domestic sector, I would say, because most of the aircraft that have been ordered are short-haul aircraft, not having the capacity to fly to Europe and United States, where Air India would continue to dominate. But more importantly is, it reflects basically IndiGo's, the way they think, that this is how we wish to go forward. And when you look at the staggering figure of 500 aircraft, the largest order in aviation history, people have been asking this question, how are they going to be funding it? Quite like they put this question for Air India when they ordered 470 aircraft. The reality is that we are talking of delivery of these aircraft between 2030 and 2035, which is 7 years to 12 years from now. Let's not forget they have 300 plus aircraft in the fleet now. Many of the aircraft will require replacement. So it is not that the 500 aircraft will be in addition to the fleet of IndiGo. Many of these aircraft will be replacing. So that's why, while the number may look huge, the reality is that there will be a sizable number of replacement aircraft that take place, or the leased aircraft that IndiGo may have in its fleet. But it's a very welcome development, which means IndiGo realizes that Indian market will continue its growth momentum. With 61% market share in the month of May 2023, it just goes on that, look, probably Indian market is heading for a fewer number of players. 61%, Air India having announced that they wish to have 30% market share over the next 5 years' time, of what 1 year has already gone by, and with 26.5% market share currently, because Go First exiting has facilitated increase in market share of both IndiGo and Air India, Tata-owned airlines.
Absolutely. It's going to be exciting times ahead, Mr. Bhargava. A lot of queries, coming in, or speculation with regards to how this will impact pricing, capacity, whether or not there'll be other benefits for consumers. How do you anticipate things playing out? Because delivery is going to be happening over a few years, of course.
You see, what happens in the aviation industry is that when you freeze your orders, you basically get the good price, the best pricing that you can possibly get, the size of the order, advance orders. And then, being a private airline, what happens in aviation industry is you have booked your slots for aircraft manufacture. There will invariably airlines who would have an urgent need of an aircraft. So you even trade off these slots, manufacturing slots, so that you can get an aircraft early, etc. It all helps out. And IndiGo has been a very professional airline as far as aircraft purchases are concerned. If you recall, 15 years ago, when they placed a huge order, everybody was wondering, how can somebody place a 100 aircraft order? But the reality is, IndiGo has demonstrated that they can gainfully deploy the capacity, capture market share, and yet be profitable. And the profitability is the best part of the IndiGo's operations. Because any sector that they operate to, they have multiple flights. They don't spread themselves thin. They have very large market share on every sector that they operate to. So this is what is it. And their focus has been entirely, largely on domestic sectors. If you notice, barring domestic sector, all that they do is to fly to Southeast Asia and to the Gulf countries. Only the recent cases where they've tied up with Turkish airline, taken the aircraft on lease, and they're flying to Istanbul.
So when do you see, Mr. Bhargava, the consumer having a good time, with Air India gradually starting to really amp things up and IndiGo clearly here to stay? Even if it is a duopoly, do you see things getting more competitive over the next couple of years or immediate future?
Well, the competition is certainly there, but what it means is that the weaker players will have a tough time in the Indian market. You've seen Go First instance, for example, SpiceJet is as it is and not a very healthy financial situation. What are you left with? Akasa Airline is doing well. They've been steadily increasing their market share. But the reality is on the Indian domestic market horizon, where are the other airlines left now? Vistara and AirAsia India will merge with Air India, so you get reduction in the total number of airlines. And all that you have is IndiGo with a commanding market share, Air India with a distant second position, and then you have Akasa Airline. And SpiceJet one, of course, has put a question mark as to how far can they go, because if you look up the statistics for the month of April and May, which is the summer schedule for our airlines, they have not been able to fly even 50% of the approved number of flights. Whatever be the constraints, financial constraints, lack of availability of aircraft, etc., but they're certainly going through tough times.
Mr. Bhargava, always a pleasure. Great speaking with you and getting your perspective on really, how this will shape the landscape for the Indian aviation sector going forward. Exciting times.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.